Hi, this is Argonax, and we talk about things that don't matter. Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment concerning the topic of superpositions within quantum mechanics.
Huh?
I'm not gonna pretend like I understood any of that. Most people, myself included, just know it as the phrase about the cat being both dead and alive at the same time thing. Now, Team Fortress 2 has nothing to do with quantum mechanics or superpositions, unless you're a god-tier sniper who's camped out in the corner of the map and nobody has stopped your 12-kill spree. And much like the status of the cat, I find that TF2's status within Valve and even the wider gaming world is similar. That being that depending on who you ask, Team Fortress 2 is both dead or dying and alive and thriving. So I just wanted to ask the question, why is this the case? Full disclosure, this video is going to be very speculative. I don't necessarily have the answer to the question that I literally just asked a few seconds ago. I want this video to be more of a discussion with you guys, the viewers. I want to have a little back and forth. So I'm asking this question right now at the beginning of this video. Do you guys think that TF2 is dying or thriving? And what are your reasonings for your choice? I am genuinely curious. So while I might not have the answer to these questions, I'm just going to present the things that make this such a paradoxical statement. Basically just going to be listing off the reasons as to why I could see somebody saying that TF2 is dying, and then I'm going to present something that could be seen as TF2 thriving once again. This game is really an enigma, and there's no other game that number one plays like TF2, and number two has its, I guess, very unique setup or circumstance, I suppose. So let's get into it. Team Fortress 2 is a game with a rather high standing within the gaming world. It's beloved, well, for the most part, by everyone who plays it. It's fondly remembered by those who used to play it but don't play it anymore, and it's respected by those who have never even played the game before. If TF2 was a person that you knew back in high school, he would be the cool class clown who everybody kinda liked. Team Fortress 2 is also a Valve game, and that in of itself carries a lot of prestige and baggage at the same time. There's a lot of expectations as a Valve game, because if a Valve game doesn't meet those expectations, at best, the game is forgotten. At worst, the game becomes the prime example of a bad video game launch. Need I remind you of Artifact? There's also the fact that Team Fortress 2 is old, very old, especially for an FPS game. I tried looking up if there are any other first-person multiplayer games that were supported anywhere near as long as TF2, and the only one that I can find that came anywhere close to the length of support TF2 had was Crossfire, which is basically Asian Counter-Strike, which is stupid to say because Counter-Strike is also very popular in Asia. But other than that, there is no single FPS game that is supported anywhere near as long as TF2. You have FPS series being older and longer running than TF2, but no single game comes anywhere close to TF2 though. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I couldn't find anything else on that topic. But then at the same time, despite its age, it's outperforming games that are significantly younger than it. Just going off the top of my head, you have games like Splitgate 2, X-Defiant, Concord, FBC Firebreak, The Finals, BattleBit Remastered, Back 4 Blood. All of those games that I listed were once high-profile FPS shooters, and currently TF2 has them all beat in terms of player count. Actually, on that topic of player count, you would think that TF2 reached its peak player count a decade ago, but that's not the case, because according to Steam charts, TF2 reached its highest recorded player count 2 years ago. Now, some of you might say, oh, that those were probably just bots. The player count was inflated because of bots at the time. And it's true, TF2 has, or had, a severe bot problem. But, much like the Stop Killing Games movement, the TF2 community came together and made a movement of their own. And guess what happened? Valve actually listened to them. The Fix TF2 movement was substantial, racking up hundreds of thousands of signatures. And as far as I'm concerned, they came through. I haven't seen a bot in this game for almost a year. And to give further context to that, I frequently play TF2 in the late hours of the night, or should I say early morning. I frequently play TF2 at like 3, 4, 5 a.m. in the morning. Usually those are the least active times, and that's usually when bots, cheaters, and bad actors would be most active. And guess what? I haven't seen any at all. So at least as far as I'm concerned, this movement was a massive success. And not only did Valve remove these bad actors, but actually kept them from coming back. Huge win for the overall health for TF2, but it's kinda also dumb at the same time that it took Valve so long to actually address the problem, and the fact that it took hundreds of thousands of people to actually sign a petition to make them do so in the first place is kinda silly. Another question that I want to pose to you guys is Team Fortress 2 even worth working on? I mean, from Valve's perspective. There is this plain and simple fact that Team Fortress 2 hasn't had a major update since Jungle Inferno, which was more than 8 years ago now. But then again, a few summers ago, they added a new game mode, versus Saxton Hale. And this isn't some no meat all bone kind of game mode or update. This is a rather substantial game mode. However, does it count as a major update? Most TF2 players will probably say no, but if you're not involved heavily in TF2, then you'll probably see a brand new substantial game mode as a decent update. And therein lies the problem. What really counts as a major update? Well, actually, that's a stupid question because a major update is to the level of Jungle Inferno. They want a substantial gameplay patch. But that being said, Valve still technically adds new content to the game. There's the aforementioned game mode, they also add new cosmetics, taunts, maps. So, memes aside, TF2, as far as new content is concerned, is far from dead. Hell, there's the fact that Valve outright asked the community to make maps for a long neglected game mode, Man vs. Machine. That post leads me to believe that we are on the path to Valve working with us, the TF2 players, for new cooperative, collaborative community content. That's a lot of C's, wow. And another thing that starts with a C is comparison. Because we also have to compare TF2 relatively to Valve's other properties. You see, Valve makes a lot of money from many different sources. The biggest one, of course, is Steam, but I'm not going to bring that up. Steam can basically fund an entire small nation if it wanted to. Valve also makes a lot of money from their two major games, Counter-Strike and Dota. TF2 is a distant third place. And while any other game company would salivate at the amount of money that TF2 probably makes for Valve, in the grand scheme of things, it's a drop in the ocean. But then you also have to remember that Valve has several other forgotten multiplayer games. Many of them never even reached the heights of Team Fortress 2. So it makes you realize that if Valve really wanted TF2 dead and shut down, it would have been a long time ago. But that's also probably the reason why there's so much fervor within the TF2 community when it comes to Valve's treatment of their game. It's because TF2 was once held in such a high degree within Valve, and nowadays it just feels like Valve barely acknowledges the game's existence. And in that case, they're absolutely right. Valve is completely neglecting TF2. Hell, Valve is neglecting Counter-Strike for God's sakes. So in this case, I absolutely see the point. Valve, when it comes to communication, is probably one of the worst companies out there. Shifting gears a little bit, Valve also released the SDK for Team Fortress 2 relatively recently, and thus the community can freely use it to make all sorts of content for the game. Is this Valve unofficially giving the keys to the game to the community? How about the ending of the Team Fortress 2 comic? The comic ending is as definitive as it comes, with all of the characters getting satisfying closure to their comic storylines. Those two things, the SDK thing and the comic thing, these two endings kinda seem like very clear indicators that Valve is slowly letting go of the game. And to top it all off, there's also the plain and simple fact that Valve is working and maintaining many other things. Between maintaining Steam and their other games, working on new hardware and software, and God knows what else, because Gaben seems to have a fascination with brain interfacing, where does TF2 land on the priority ladder? I know for a fact that Valve is not afraid to drop games with low interest. Just take a look at all of the other forgotten Valve games. And I also don't know to what standards Valve have for their games, and whether or not TF2 meets those standards. But it's not all negative though. Like I said before, the MVM update shows that there is definitely interest within Valve for TF2. But by how much? I don't know. And is this renewed interest in TF2? Is it sustainable? Is this interest renewable? Or is it just a fleeting thing, a one-off, a fling? I legitimately do not know. And again, that's why I'm making this video, because I want to talk with you guys to ask, what do you think? And as a final statement to this video, I'll simply say this. Of the various Valve multiplayer games, actually no, scratch that, of the countless multiplayer games out there across gaming history, there have been many games that were kept alive by its community, even after the game is supposedly dead. And these types of games are all kept alive by the passionate communities that they fostered. And I legitimately think that Team Fortress 2's community has them all beat when it comes to passion. I don't think there is a single other game out there that has a community more passionate than Team Fortress 2. So come what may, whether hell or high water, I know the community is going to be around to stick with this game right through the end, assuming the community will even allow an end to happen, because God knows if they can, they'll make sure that this game goes on forever. And that's where I'll end it, Internet Wanderer. Again, post your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a little campfire discussion, if you will, because this is a topic that has interested me for a long time, and I think it will interest a lot of you as well. Thanks for watching, Internet Wanderer. Do the YouTube things.